Good evening everybody, and once again welcome back to the video. In today's video I'm gonna be talking about Apache Hudi metadata, column stat index and data skipping. Now we're gonna learn about data skipping in action, and before we begin the video I would like to thank Aditya for his help and answering all my questions. So thank you, Aditya. So without wasting any further time, let's begin the data skipping. Before we begin the hands-on lab, I wanna explain you the concept a little bit. So let's consider I am going into a library, right? And inside the library, I have all these shelves where a lot of books are kept. I go to the librarian and say, hey, I'm looking for a book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, okay? Now the most naive way to find the book in all these shelves would be, okay, I'm gonna go to the first shelf, check all the book title and then keep moving forward, right? Now, as you can see, this is expensive, right? Because I have to go through all the shelves to look for the book that I'm looking for. Now, what's the smart way here, right? Well, you can have some sort of a metadata, right? You can say, all right, Rich Dad Poor Dad book, the title start with R, right? So all the books with the word R or the title R would be in aisle number 3. Now you know that I need to go on into aisle 3 and then start looking for the book. So what you just did, well, we were looking at the metadata and we knew which aisles to skip. This is exactly what Apache Hudi column stat index with data skipping does. So when you're running query, for example, let's say, hey, I'm looking for all the people with salary greater than ABCD, right? So now by looking at the metadata, it knows that this particular item could be present in A, B, C or D files. That's basically what data skipping and metadata is all about in Apache Hudi. So now let's understand this fantastic concept with a small hands-on lab. So now let's begin the lab. Alright, so I will be giving you this Jupyter notebook so you guys can try these exercise labs out. Alright, so the first part is we need to define import. So I'm going to define Spark session and I'm going to define OSS, UUID, etc. So let's run this. And then I'm going to create a Spark session with Apache Hudi package. I'm using Spark 3.4, Hudi package 0.14.0. So I'm going to run that, and then as you can see, my Spark session is ready. I can print over here. Now I have a very simple example to explain you the concept. This will generate some fake data about the customer. I have customer ID, name, city, state, email address, the created ad and the salary. Again, this is a bunch of fake data. I'm going to execute the cell over here. And then we are going to generate some sample data about the customers. So here I'm going to execute. This is going to, call the function and it's going to generate some fake data. As you can see, this cell is now in the running state. Now, once that is done, let's create a Spark data frame and then insert that into the Hudi, and then let's explore data skipping in action. Okay. So let's wait for this cell to complete. This is a lot of data. So I'm going to wait for this cell to complete and then resume the video. All right. So here you can see we now have a Spark data frame, customer ID, name, city, state, email, created ad, some address and some salary. Great. Now we will be defining the Apache Hudi setting. We're going to write the data, right? So here, let's go from here. We define the table type, which is going to be copy on write. We define the method, which is going to be upsert, the record key, the precom key, and the partition, right? Now these are important, right? When you're writing data, you have to have these configs enabled, right? The most important one is Hudi metadata enable. We gotta set that to true. And then you have to set Hudi metadata.index.column.stats.enable, set that to true. Now I want to explain you this particular settings, what this means. So let me go to this example of the books, right? So when I gave you the example of books, right? When we go to the library and I said I want Rich Dad Poor Dad, right? I was searching the book by title, right? So what I'm trying to explain you is in the metadata, title was there, right? So I'm trying to explain you that when you have large data set and you have so many columns, you have the ability or you have the flexibility to choose the columns on which the index should be built, right? So Hudi gives you the flexibility, but again, if you do not provide that, it's going to do on all the columns by default. So I wanted to cover this for sure. Okay. So hopefully this made sense. Okay. And then, we're just writing the data into Hudi transactional data lake. So again, I have a helper function which says write to Hudi and takes a Spark data frame and bunch of configs, and the job of it is to write data into Hudi. Okay. Now I'm going to write the data. As you can see, I'm calling the function write to Hudi, passing in the Spark data frame, the database name, the customer, table name is customer, record key, pre-com key, partition, and here observe metadata column stat. So I have the flexibility to tell Apache Hudi that, hey, create my index on this particular column. If you don't specify, it will by default create on all columns. But again, if you have a lot of columns, it could take a little bit space, right? So you have the flexibility to basically tell Hudi like, hey, I want to do on A, B, C, and D, right? It takes a comma separated value. So I just wanted to make sure I covered that. All right, so now we're gonna execute this, and this could take a few minutes. And once the write operation is complete, now I'm gonna cover the data skipping part. All right, so my write operation is complete, okay? Now I have two cases to show you, right? One, I'm gonna read the data. So again, observe here. I am reading the data from Hudi, creating a snapshot, and I'm saying, hey, give me all the person whose salary is greater than this number, right? And then I have one more example, okay? Forget about this. I have one more example where data skipping is done. So what I wanna show you is through Spark UI, when we run the first one, right, you will see almost more than 50 files would be scanned. But in the second one, you will see data skipping taking in place. Okay, so I want to show you this actually, so let's go over here. So first, what I want to do is I want to reset my kernel. So I'm going to do that. Gonna create the Spark session, and then I'm going to open the Spark UI on my browser. Okay, so give me a second, could take a while. All right, so I'm going to click on the Spark UI, and here you can see I have my Spark UI. Now guys, what I want to do is I will come here again. I'm saying give me all the records where the salary is greater than this number, right? So basically I'm reading from Hudi and creating a snapshot, and then I'm reading some data. Okay, so if I execute this, okay, again there's no records right, for people whose salary is greater than this number. Now okay, I want to show you something. Okay, so I'm gonna go to the Spark UI SQL data frame. I'm gonna go over here, click here. Now observe this. Oops, okay. All right, okay, observe here, number of files read is 50, right? So as you can see, it was basically going to all the files and it was looking for the data points, right? Now let's take a look at the data skipping feature, right? So now how we can use that, right? So while reading, you have to provide these configs, okay? So the reader has to say Hudi enable data skipping set to true, metadata enable to true, and then Hudi metadata index column stats enable to true. So these are the three flags. You got to make sure that these are set to true. Now again, same example, right? Select everything from Hudi snapshot where salary is greater than that number, right? So now since the metadata is there, it knows that people with salary greater than this does not exist in the table. So number of file scans would be 0. So let's execute this particular shell. So the shell execution has started, as you can see. Now if I head over to Spark UI and let me refresh this, I'm gonna go to SQL and /data frames, click here. Observe this, number of files read is 0. So you get the idea, right? And how now Apache Hudi data skipping feature can help you to improve and speed up your queries. So I hope this video is helpful. I'm going to list about 3 to 4 resources, some blogs and articles, and some documentation. Feel free to read them if needed. They are really very informative. So I'm going to leave all the resources in the resource section. Now with that being said, thank you so much for watching. This particular notebook can be found on my blog. So please make sure, go ahead, try this out. And with that being said, thank you for watching, and I'm going to see you in the next video.